computer. Hi, this is Elaine Brewster, and welcome to Aspects of Energy, where we talk about ways to raise our energy. And today we are so excited to have nurse Kimball Sargent, who is on our call. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She owned two H&R Block franchises for 30 years. She is an entrepreneur. She's a nurse psychotherapist, hypnotist, and NLP practitioner in private practice for 26 years. She and Jeff Avery Foy are the proud parents of 5 children, and they're Oma and Opa to 7 amazing grandchildren and 1 on the way. And she's been married to her partner and best friend in the company Nikken for 15 and a half years. And they discovered the company, the Japanese company Nikken, 15 years ago because she had some dire illnesses and it helped her with that. Backing up now, 18 years ago, when my husband had cancer, one of the things that he was asked to do was to go outside and walk on the bare grass for 10 minutes every day. But mind you, this is Utah in February. Luckily, there was a thaw and he actually found some bare grass to do that, but he would go out every day. And I didn't know why, but 2.5 years ago, we found out why.
I want to withdraw from Crown Classic $50.
Barbara, you need to mute.
And we all need to mute, except for Kimball, and we don't want her to mute. We're so excited. Kimball is just the funnest, sweetest, perkiest person. So we're just going to turn over this idea of grounding or earthing and let you tell us whatever you want to, Kimball.
Well, I'm so excited. It's kind of funny. I had heard a little bit about earthing before Nikken came out with our grounding pad, but it's kind of funny. In childhood, there were some things that I just was drawn to or pushed away from. And when I look back now, what I realized that as children, our bodies really know what they want and we're drawn to them. So when I was a kid, I lived on my grandparents' farm and I would not wear shoes. My parents were next door, and in the dead of winter, I'd spend the night. I spent the night at my grandmother's house every night and would run over to my mother's to get ready to go to school in the morning. And with snow on the ground, several times I was in between and she'd yell back, "You gotta have on shoes, it's 30 degrees and there's snow." And I would just keep right on going. I loved being barefoot, and I stuck nails in my feet so many times that I guess I was about 5. And I remember when my grandmother took me over to see the doctor, he wrote a prescription, wear shoes. And I still didn't. And then when I was about 13, about the same year I got sick with autoimmune, I begged my parents to get a tent. Now we did camping on an Airstream travel trailer. Neither of my parents ever slept on the ground, and I wanted to sleep on the ground. So they got me a tent, they put it in the backyard, and I loved to go out and lay on the ground. And they thought I was the weirdest kid in the world. Never knew why it was like that. And then my husband and I got together, and he was a big tent camper, and I loved it. And I would always say, because I had all kinds of sleep problems that I don't know what it is, but every time I lay on the ground to sleep, I sleep so good. And my friends thought I was so weird because none of them would even get in a tent. And I was telling them how much better I slept on the ground. And I didn't even put a mattress or anything. I'd put a sleeping bag down on the ground and sleep. So then when Nikken came out with a grounding pad, then I was like, well, I really got to learn about this. And then I got so excited because the National Institute of Health had 30 some articles already written at that time about the benefits of grounding. So this is real and it's science backed. And then, it's that energy stuff that I really love. So when we come in contact with the Earth's surface, we come into contact with all kinds of pollutants in the air, in the water, in the clothes, in, paints and all these different things. So we're just being bathed in free radicals, and free radicals are correlated with cancers and heart disease and every kind of illness. But when we come in contact with the ground, then there are all of these ions that are coming up, and they can bind with the free radicals and they're taken away. So this is, it's just really energy. And if you think back, Native Americans wore their moccasins walking on the ground, barefoot walking on the ground. What other animal doesn't live on the ground? They're not, except our cats and our dogs that we bring in the house. Animals want to be in contact with the ground. They don't need a college education to figure this out. Their nature just says to do it. And little kids, what do you do? I mean, I was a typical little kid. They want to be barefoot on the ground. Well, we need to be barefoot on the ground. So what are the benefits? The benefits are feeling centered. You know, before Nikken ever did this, I went to a training on working with kids that have autism, and they'll have these really bad meltdowns. And the gentleman said, pick the child up, take them out, put them on the grass with their feet on the ground, and leave them for a couple of minutes. If they're bumping around too bad, then lay them on the ground and just cradle their head so that they don't beat it into the ground and hurt themselves, and they will calm down. I didn't know why that was. It was a grounding. It was a centering. It was the balancing of the energy in that child. Grounding comfort. It provides comfort when you have discomfort. Maybe you got aches and pains and things. Again, it's the energy. It relaxes you, and it actually energizes you. You know, that's what's neat about nature. There are things in nature that can both pull down your high strung problems and give you the energy you need at the same time. Now, one of the very best things about grounding is it decreases inflammation. And inflammation is at the core of all illnesses, no matter what they are. In fact, there's an article out there on grounding that looks at the number of articles that have been written about inflammation and different diseases. And I think the one on cancer said there's 6,000 articles about inflammation correlated with cancer. So it's, you know, this is huge. Heart disease, it's an inflammatory disease. Now, all disease cause there's inflammation at it. So the grounding, and this is our grounding pad, and I just love mine. When I am coaching or I'm doing psychotherapy, I either have it under my feet or in my lap so that I can have my hands on it. And then I get the same benefits as if it were a perfect day, because sometimes on perfect days, I do go outside and do my workout there. I can do it on the computer that way and have my feet in the grass on the ground. But most of the time I'm in here because I live in North Carolina. And, you know, we have about 10 days a year that's nice to be out there. And other than that, the humidity is too bad. So I'm really happy to have this. And I want to get the inflammation down. And I'll talk with you more about that in a minute. But I want to go through how quickly using grounding can change your body. So there's really hardcore research. And like I said, you can Google this and you'll find all kinds of articles. But when you put your hand on the grounding pad or you put it on the ground, like in 15 seconds, and they use electrodes to figure this out, the muscles in your face start relaxing and your brain waves relax. So just think about it. If you're feeling a little stressed out, you could just have this, put your hands on it, and in seconds, things start changing. In 45 minutes, the viscosity of the blood changes. Well, you know, what does that mean in layman's terms? Because viscosity is a big word. Have you ever heard of sticky blood? Well, sometimes blood can be sticky, clumps together. Well, when you're grounding, the blood starts flowing better and not sticking together. And you might think about that. Sticky blood sounds like something that could be sticky, and maybe sticky blood causes blood clots more. Can be. We want that blood to flow, and there's science behind it. So if people are worried about blood clots, then this is really important. Now, what is one of the diseases that the world is dealing with right now? A lot of problems with blood clots. That would be COVID-19. So I'm just going to be talking. We don't cure, we don't treat, and neither does grounding. What grounding is doing is taking that natural energy and and adding it to the body. And I'm going to tell you about some things that doing this might be complementary for it. So COVID-19 is one of them. And if people have had the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, we know that there is a higher risk with blood clots. AstraZeneca is the same. So wouldn't it be nice to be doing grounding, that would keep that blood flowing along? So that's important. Now, the magic of grounding starts in 8 hours. So that tell you why a grounding pad is something that everybody really wants. Because as much as I like sleeping on the ground, I don't like doing it every night. I wouldn't want to do it every week. But with a grounding pad, I actually sleep on 2 at night. My husband has 3. But that means that you get the longer period of time. So what happens with longer period of time in touch with a grounding pad? Well, one of the things is electrolytes balance. So that's your potassium and your sodium and your chlorine, and all of that is really important for health. But it takes that 8 hours. Now, another thing that's great is research has shown that 8 hours, blood sugars start improving. Now, I talked to you about the fact that inflammation is at the root of all illness. Well, guess what's at the root of a lot of inflammation and a lot of other illness? It is blood sugars that are not stable. And we have a chronic problem with that in the United States. We have huge obesity, poor eating habits. So when you start using your grounding pad, if you have problems with sugar, you may be able to see an improvement in that. Also, inflammation in organs like the pancreas, that can also be an issue when you're having problems with sugar. And we've already talked about it decreases that. So the 8 hours is huge. Cardiovascular stuff. There's a Dr. Sinatra, not Frank, who has done a lot of investigation and reading and writing and publishing on this. And I'll tell you, he's a really nice looking guy, and he's aging, and he sleeps with a grounding pad under his head at night to work on the wrinkles, ladies. You can actually do a little mini facelift. That's where one of my grounding pads is, because I want my skin to stay nice, and he talks about it. Now, the cool thing about this is you might be thinking, well, are there any contraindications? I'm always getting that. Well, Dr. Sinatra, who's a cardiologist, is very clear with that. There's only one that he has a concern with, and that is if you're on a blood thinner called heparin. Now, this is going to give you an idea of how much it really can change the viscosity of the blood. But heparin is a blood thinner that you have to have blood draws to see if your blood is not sticky enough, because your blood can be too thin. And he says that he's found that it can get low. Now, what I would do if it was me, and I'm not giving you any medical advice, I'm teaching you what I would do. If I were on heparin and I wanted to use a grounding pad, or I wanted to spend a lot of time barefoot on the ground, I would let my doctor know that I was doing that and say, let's do a blood draw in a week. I'm going to do it every day. And they can do that, and then they can see what change there needs to be. With no other medication that they use for blood clots is that necessary. And that is the only contraindication to grounding.
Wow.
Now, truly, there are many things that we hear doctors say don't do. But how many times have you ever heard a doctor say don't walk outside barefoot? Except for mine, and that's because I was stepping on lots of nails, and he was tired of my grandmother bringing me in. So I would suggest that you watch where you're walking a little bit more than I did. But this is a big thing. So we talked a little bit about obesity. Well, most people who are obese have a lot of inflammation, but guess what? If you use the grounding pad, it improves your metabolism. A lot of times, poor metabolism is a problem. It will help for you to get rid of toxins and bad things. It's great for detoxing. It improves the flow of things. So what's flowing in your body? Well, that would be the blood circulation. So connecting with nature is really, really important. Now, somebody brought up to me recently, well, I've heard you shouldn't use it in an area where there's a lot of electromagnetic smog. Well, that's just crazy. The last research study I'm going to mention to you is one that was done in a NICU. So you're looking at the most fragile human beings that there are on the planet who were literally kept alive with their temperature control and their heart and the breathing and all of this in a electromagnetic incubator with all this smog. Well, guess what? They put those little babies on a grounding pad. And guess what? Immediately, they almost got improvement in the temperature control, improvement in heart rate, improvement in respiration, everything improved. So there's nobody who's more fragile than a newborn premature infant. So this is going to let you know that it is hugely safe and everybody needs it. And the cool thing is that this one that Nikken has the most, there's silver fibers here. And that's a really great conductor. And all you have to do is, here's my plug, I've got it plugged in, and then you're ready to go. You can use as many as you want. You can ground as long as you want. I would highly recommend that if you're on a computer all day, have one and have it in your lap with your hands on it, or have it under your feet. But you want to be but grounding is good from everybody, from the tiny little kids. And, you know, people are always saying, well, I can't use magnets because I promote those a lot because I have a pacemaker. Well, you don't even have to worry about it. Pacemaker, again, there was only one thing that I told you. And if there's somebody on heparin, they need to let their doctor know they're using it, and they need for him to check the levels and make sure if he needs to make any. And a doctor won't blink at that, because you know what, when you're on a drug like heparin, they have to do regular blood draws and they have to make adjustments. So that isn't any kind of problem. So I love grounding. I think that everyone can benefit from it, young and old. And I see we've got some people on, and I would love to have some questions. So tell me what questions, or if you've got a really good story. I love hearing stories about how grounding has helped people. If you got some you want to share. This is the interactive point.
Maybe they're muted.
I think Hattie Jane looks like she's trying to figure out how. Hattie Jane, look in the lower left-hand corner, and there'll be a microphone, and then you click it. It won't let you unmute. It won't let you unmute. Romer said she can't unmute either. Elaine, can you unmute them as the hostess?
Unmute themselves. Good now?
See if you can unmute now.
Yep, got it.
Yes. Hey, Norma.
Hi. Well, I know what I like about it. It acts almost like a heating pad, but it's pulling the inflammation from you instead of putting it in you, which I think is awesome. And
Absolutely.
I did a rollout one time, and when I do my mini rollouts, I fold it in half. So I have the silver against the thighs and the other hands on top of it. So they're both dual things. And I had one gentleman's feet started tingling, and he asked me if that was normal. I said, I don't know. He hadn't had any feeling before. So it increased the blood flow that much for him. And he had also sugar problems.
Oh,
so those are cool things.
That is very cool. Hattie Jane.
Yes, I'm up. Oh, that's the most confusing thing. You press that little sucker and it's not working.
Technology is great when it works.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I really was impressed when I came back from Toronto a couple years back after going to Humans Being More. And I had been having some mobility problems. And I came back from Toronto and I was hurting all over. But I go to stand up from sitting in the chair or watching, and I couldn't straighten up right away. It hurt, and I just couldn't straighten up, just wouldn't straighten up. And then it was like, can I step off? That was, it reminded me of like folks describing Parkinson's, because it felt that inactive. I got on the grounding pad, and bingo, I started connecting again. and I could stand up, I could walk off and move spontaneously like I'm supposed to. So it's like, okay.
Well, I'll tell you one of my favorite grounding stories. That was a great one too. Was 2 years ago. I love to camp, but now we do it in a truck camper. And my husband and it was the day before July 4th, and we were getting ready to go camping, and we were taking the 60-pound tailgate to put it down somewhere because we had to put our truck camper in. And we had a little misunderstanding, and it landed on my left great toe. And it was blood went everywhere immediately. I mean, my great toe was about this big, the large toe. And I put tape on it and magnets on it. And he said, well, we can't go. And I said, oh no, we're going camping. But it was really bad. And I went to bed that night at about 2 a.m. I woke up and it just felt like that toe was just throbbing. So I was on my grounding pad, but I thought, well, they say that any way you have it, it works. But I thought it only makes sense to me that if you put it at the place you have an injury, that it would, if it were right at that spot, it would work better. So I wrapped it around my foot, sort of made it into a little booty. Well, I laid back down, and in probably 15 minutes, I was asleep. When I woke up the next morning, my toe was almost the normal size. Now, I already had magnets on this toe, and I had the ceramic fiber tape. This grounding pad was absolutely amazing. My husband couldn't believe it. I mean, I did a little bit of walking on it. And then after that, I just kept that wrapped around. What was most amazing was that 5 days later, I took a dance certification in a type of therapeutic dance called Nia, where I danced about 8 hours a day for 7 days straight. And I was able to do it. And I do not believe that I would have reached the level of healing to be able to do that without this. I'll tell you, it is, whether you're an athlete, somebody that just wants a little better help, or you're somebody that's suffering with some poor health, the stories are great. Have we got any other good stories about ways people have been helped with the grounding pad? Gwen?
I'd love to share. I have 7 grandkids and they can get rambunctious. So all I do is I pull out the grounding pad and I tell them to come by and take a few minutes and just put their hands on it. And their disposition just calms them down and then they go on. But then once in a while, it's usually the really young ones, like the 2-year-olds, they'll end up sitting on it and putting their hands and legs on it because they like how they feel and they get this grin on their face. I mean, it's awesome.
Dogs and cats love to get on it too. My dog always comes and gets on it. When I get up in the morning, he'll hop on one of them. Animals, like, again, they know they haven't left the earth's surface the way we humans have, and they feel that energy and they appreciate it.
Kimball?
Yes.
It's Barb, and I apologize for earlier. I wanted to say, whenever Gwen tells that story, I always say, wow, what if you could calm your grandkids and a few adults too? So I think there's a great application for that. And I just had a story this morning. Last night, I went to dinner with a friend from Rotary. She's not sleeping at all. I loaned her the grounding pad, and I just got a text a half an hour ago, and she says, I not only slept all the way through the night, when I woke up, I went right back to sleep. She's totally blown away with it. And I think most of you know my quick story, which I totally forgot I had done this. And it's such an application. I'd love to see other people do this to see if it helps them. And that's when you have that horrible feeling after you've lost a loved one and you get that down feeling. And I just took and put the grounding pad over my heart and chest. And I knew when I went to bed, I said, okay, I got to be very objective. Am I still feeling that way? Because my plan was just to go to bed and cry myself to sleep. So anyway, it was actually Madeline that suggested I do this. And I very cognitively was aware of how I felt. Yep, I have that horrible feeling. I took and put the grounding pad over my heart and chest, and immediately my mood changed. I mean, immediately. And I went to sleep. Now, I really thought it was maybe a fluke, you know how a lot of people do with our products. And so I said, I'm just going to play with it again. 2 weeks later, same thing. So all I can say is, what if? even yourself, when it doesn't even have to be that sort of a feeling, but you're just upset, you're just not even, things aren't going right. Just stop and do it.
That is a great story. I'm so glad that you shared that, because it's balancing the energy, and that's so important. And Bill from Winnipeg wanted to know where you put it when you sleep. Well, there are different options. They say that when you have it under the feet and the legs, then it's affecting the entire body. So that is one option. And that is where I started out. Then I have a friend, Pam Barnes, who, like myself, has had some digestive problems through the years. And she told me that she was wrapping it around her abdomen. And she said, it helps if you get heartburn sometimes. She says that's good. But she says, you know what? I think I have actually lost inches in my waist. Well, she had me there. So I started wrapping it around my abdomen, and I love that. And I will tell you that I did notice that it helped me lose some inches there. You can put it under your head and your face, as I talked about. That's how to get your mini facelift. I mean, you can sleep on or with as many of these as you want. I kind of like the idea of 3, where you have one over your head, one around your abdomen, one under your legs. You just choose. But those are the options. And maybe think about, what problems you have. If I go to bed with some sort of sore limb, like a sore shoulder or something, I will move it and I'll take it and drape it over it and sleep with it. It seems to work even when it's not there, but I really like to put it right on the area and find that is very, and I got that because I tried that with my toe that night when I didn't know what else to do, and I got such great relief.
Cool.
That's on bare skin?
Yes. It's better. You can put it, for people that say it just slides around, I don't like it, you can put it under a sheet. You want it to be a fairly thin sheet. You can have other things, but if you have it directly on your skin, you will get the very best result.
Kimball, I put mine underneath my waist sometimes, where my hand can lay flat on it, because that way it works best for me, because my feet don't lay flat on it. So I put it underneath my back where I can reach it just perfectly with my hands.
Oh, that's awesome. Does anybody have anything else? Let's see. My daughter is having, hang on. It's with her gout again. And after 2 nights wrapped around her foot at night, it was gone. Oh, yes. I had somebody that I networked with that had gout and needed to move, and he could hardly walk. He took home a grounding pad. He slept on it that night. He got up the next morning and was well enough to move furniture. So, yeah, it's many things. And these are conditions, and we're not treating anything. You just put your body on it, and your body uses the energy, and see what happens.
Well, in the, where's my book? Oh, right here. In this book, can you see it?
Yes.
Earthing by Clint Ober and Stephen Sinatra, who's the surgeon, and Martin Zucker. I just had fun going. I learned so much just reading this book. It's not about any company or anything. It's just about earthing. And in that book, it shows, and there are specific stories of helping everything from acid reflux to vertigo and everything in the middle. I made this huge list just because it was fun of all of these things. And anytime I get a new technology, especially from the company Nikken, I really pay attention to how I feel. And so I just sat there and I just kind of was aware of how I felt. It was a little bit like what Barb Satterwhite said, kind of a little bit on the sad or maybe even the worried side. And, and then I put the grounding pad next to my skin, and it wasn't very long, maybe 30 seconds. All of a sudden I noticed I just felt calmer. I felt more content. And after what Kimball has told us, it makes perfect sense, because the energy in this that's from the ground, from the outside, it's neutralizing the negative or the bad or the overly active things.
Right. Somebody just put a question in there that I wanted to speak to. They asked, how do you know if the grounding pad is working? And this is really good, because I had a client who bought one, loved it, bought 3 more. And then I talked with her and she said she had stopped using them, that they quit working. A neighbor had told her they were just, wasn't real, but she was going to buy a new one. And I said, you get these little, they're little gadgets that measure electricity. And you take it and you have someone put their hand, take out to the little electrode. And if you want more information about it, you can get in touch with me, because I'll have to get my husband to help you, because he got it and they're about $30. You touch it, the person touches it, and it will tell you how much electrical charge your body is putting off. The little monitor goes. Then you have them put their hand on the grounding pad and it drops. So that is a visual way to show somebody it's working. So what happened with this woman is I said, well, I'll be happy to order another one for you, but I kind of feel like we ought to use this meter and see if yours still works. She said, well, I'm sure they don't, but I said, okay. So I went over to her house, plugged it in, did it, checked it. She saw that, put her hand on the grounding pad, dropped right off. And she was like, I didn't think it worked anymore. Now, I will tell you, this is real quick because I'm conscious of time and we're running over, is that when I first put my hand on the grounding pad the first time, I really felt this really funny feeling inside. I don't know what it was, but I think it's because I had such a high level of electronic smog on my body. And in that book, they talk about certain people will have, I hadn't read it at the time. Later on when I read it, I was like, oh, that's what happened. But now I do it all the time. And so that electronic smog is being pulled off of me every single day and every single night. So I don't notice it as much, but they are working. And if you want to be able to show people how they work, that is a lovely way.
Good. Great questions. Anybody else?
Hey, James. Yep.
It's just a little tester, like you get trying to find a Christmas tree lights and so forth, or trying to check the plug to see if it's turned on from the box. And so these are fine. This is a fine filament in here. So possibly you could have a crack and you pulled someone managed to, so it's no longer, it's like you can check and see if it's receding current.
Right.
Going across like this, even you see the current moving, even when it's not plugged in, because it's on me.
Huh.
You plug it in, it's even more. But I love that. I love that doing the Gauss meter. I think it's called Gauss or Hertz meter. So
Yep.
It's like you check to see if you've got energy in your batteries anymore, your AAAs or your AA's, to see if they're still worth plugging in somewhere. The same type of instrument.
Yep.
Super. Well, I love all these helpful hints. Kimball, thank you so much. We have learned so much, and it just makes us want to go out and learn more and share more. It's so interesting. And it's really, it's really exciting to know that this stuff that used to seem so crazy, really has a scientific basis for it.
That's right.
It's real. Yeah. Say the meter name again. Bill and all of us want to know.
Is it a Gauss meter?
I think so. I have to get my electrical box out.
Okay.
But basically, this is a
Gauss Hertz meter, Jeff said, my husband.
yes.
Thanks.
HERTS is what I was trying to remember. Hertz.
Yes,
Gauss Hertz.
Leon Bates, who is a friend of Barbara Satterwhite's, is the one that passed it along, and he was an electrical engineer. And he knew exactly what to do. And it really is fun. But I think it's great because like I said, sometimes people will think that they're not working anymore. And, you know, it's a good thing to check because I have had people who got up from the bed and pulled the cord or whatever, and they want to make sure. Oh, yeah, there Hattie Jane showing hers. Very nice.
Little goodies. There, get them at your drugstore or your hardware store.
Yep.
Well, and just so people know, you can get an extra cord that goes with this particular grounding pad separately. It's not very much,
Yeah.
$6 or something, you know, in case there's something wrong. I'm just really careful with mine, except for when it tingles around my feet and I don't step over it. But I try and be careful. Well, thank you all so much. And next week, we get to have an excursion into yoga with this really cute gal who lived in India so that she could figure out all of this yoga stuff better. So that was
Nice.
fun. Yeah. Meanwhile, everyone keep having a rest of a great Friday and go find someone to smile at, even if it's on the phone. If you're smiling at people, they can hear even over the phone. And it'll raise your energy and it'll raise theirs. So thank you and talk to you later.
Thank you, Elaine, for having me.
Kimball, bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Yes, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.